Demo some spreadsheet stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's a fair amount of changes in spreadsheets this week. Um, so the first thing you might notice is that we now have the spreadsheet headers. Um, Jared and I worked a bit on these. They still need more work in terms of like how the interactions work and how menus and everything else work, but at least they're there. Um, for pivoting, they repeat. So you'll see that like we get BC here and then BC again. Um, that is what is happening in terms of like how we want users to think about it. So we're gonna try and see how that looks and feels to people in the short term. Um, so pivot headers are in. Next, we added some better coloring and stuff. So like if you do like A1, now we color the token and we show you where A1 is on the screen, A4, B, you know. Um, this also works for ranges. So if I do like through B6 or come back and do A, we get a range. If I put another one, I'll get a different color in, so it's a little bit distinct. And you can see that the one that has like the background filled in is the one that I'm selected on. So it gives you just like a little bit more context. And if I'm not really selected on anything, then it just gives me the outlines. So um, that's all pretty nice. Jared had a um, made the color scheme, and it's like pretty slick. Um, let's see. One thing. Let's see. We also added in the event that you're doing something like this, where we have an offset, and you get these nulls. These are now ref errors, so it's a little bit clearer about what isn't working here, and why these are null. So hopefully, if you pop back in here, you're like, okay, great. Um, let's see. Oh, yes. So on the subject of colors, we've got a lot of them, and the easiest way to show you those would probably be by clicking in, and that's a single click. This is control click. Um, so you can now click in to add cells. The This is let's see. Let's do like a shift click to select a range. Um, so writing calcs is a lot easier. I want to do like a sum of, you know, these guys and then add it to this. Like it's very fast now to write calcs. That's one of the like last major things that we wanted to do before getting into the customer hands. This is still like on my branch, but and you can see that everything is it's the offsets work with the selections here too. So if I move around, you'll see that we're offsetting into different places. But yeah, the real big addition this week is getting the sort of like selection working, which was a lot of interesting work since to do the selection, we have to calculate these rectangles based on parsing out the calculation. And then also we have to parse the calculation in order to like color these tokens individually because the way this wants to color them, they're all the same like type. So it all wants to be the same token. So there was a lot of like very fun and interesting problems to solve to get all this working. But it's pretty functional now.
That's awesome. Richard, I feel like you had flagged that as sort of like a big question mark in terms of effort. I mean, it seems like you knocked it over pretty quickly. So well
it
done.
it was a lot of effort. I just had to slam my head against it a whole bunch, and then the actual code behind it ended up being fairly complicated, but it came together pretty quickly. Like once I had um the rectangles drawing from the colors, I realized that like running that code sort of is almost like the reverse, like select a rectangle and then produce a token from it. It ended up being really simple. Like that part ended up being kind of simple once I had solved the big hurdle of, how do we take the calculation and draw rectangles in the right places. So this sort of, it was almost like the same part of the work. Um,
Cool.
yeah.
Looks
So
really great.
thanks.
Do we I know that was one of the last big blocks on this? And obviously, it sounds like you're still wrapping it up, but like, do we have a timeline for customer hands on?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Jack about this yesterday. That I think that once this lands, it puts us in a really good place for customers to use it because it's much easier to use and much more intuitive and kind of acts the way you hope. There's so many little interactions we need to figure out beyond this, that I think are like nice to haves, getting the headers right and some a little bit of refinement around the calculations of what functions are supported. And Ariel discovered today that we don't honor parentheses in math, so you can't do PEMDAS like with parentheses. Um, so like there's a bunch of that stuff that'll be a long tail. So I would just like release it to people with the very explicit, it's in beta. And there are things that won't work because nobody has hammered on it really that hard yet. Ariel just started. So